Hello everyone. So I had chapter 3 of Kraft and Furlong, which was understanding public policy making. And just to give a quick overview, this chapter concentrated on the leading theories used to explain the politics of policy making, and it focused primarily on the policy process model and explored each of its stages. Now before I get started, I did want to find a YouTube video, like a short clip, trying to explain just to give you guys a better understanding of it, because I know listening to me talk is not the most interesting, but honestly, I just could not find any short clips or any videos not longer than 7 or 10 minutes, and that's pretty much a whole presentation. So unfortunately, I am just going to go ahead and talk. I did try to find some graphics that helped explain each theory for better understanding. Okay, so let's get started. First, I want to discuss the elite theory, which emphasizes how the values and preferences of governing elites are different from those of the public, thus affecting public policy development. The primary assumption of elite theory is that the values and preferences of the general public are less influential in shaping public policy than those of a smaller, unrepresentative group of people. We can see the application of the elite theory by looking at those who dominate in public policy decisions. For instance, one elite may be influential in foreign policy, whereas another may be influential in healthcare or education. Group theory sees public policy as a product of a continuous struggle among organized interest groups. Unlike the elite theory, supporters of group theory, such as pluralists, or that's what they call themselves, believe that power in the U.S. political system is shared within interest groups, all seeking access to the policy-making process. One of the quotes I found in the Kraft and Furlong book was, "Power is pluralistic rather than concentrated in only a few elites," and I just thought that was pretty important to this chapter, so I inserted it there. Institutional theory emphasizes the formal and legal aspects of government structure. Institutional models look at the way governments are arranged, their legal powers, and their rules for decision making. A major principle of institutionalism is that the structures and rules make a big difference in the kinds of policy process that occur and which policy actors are likely to be influential in them. Analysis used institutional theory to study how these different entities perform in the policy-making process, as well as the rules, the norms, and strategies used by individuals who operate within particular organizations, such as the U.S. Congress or the federal court system. Rational choice theory, which is also called public choice and formal theory, suggests that analysts consider what individuals value, how they perceive a given situation, various uncertainties that might affect the outcome, and how the expectations of others might affect their actions. Now, if you read this chapter, well, personally, I just felt that that rational choice theory in this chapter was the theory that I most related to, the one that I understood best. And I don't know, I think that's what it is. I think I really understood rational choice theory best out of all the other theories that are mentioned in this chapter. And what I understood was that the goal is to predict how individuals will behave under a variety of conditions. Rational choice theory tries to explain public policy in terms of the actions of self-interested individual policy actors. And the examples I got from this were like voters, agency officials, or legislators. And what I found interesting was that the critics of rational choice theory argue that individuals are not always single-minded pursuers of their own self-interest. As well, rational theory is useful to formulate predictions of how agency officials and objects or targets of policy actions are likely to respond to policy initiatives. In this chapter, Captain Furlong used an example of the usage of fuel consumption, and I found that this example was what made me understand rational choice theory best. So in the example, they explained that in order to persuade an individual to reduce their usage of fuel, there must be a significant increase in the cost of gas, such as 50 cents or higher, because anything less than 50 cents is too small to make a difference in a person's personal welfare. Therefore, to get someone to change their fuel consumption, it must be in the person's best interest. And I feel like that's just what rational choice theory is. So, according to our textbook, political systems theory is more comprehensive, but also more general than the other theories I've mentioned so far throughout my presentation. Systems theory is a simple way to explain how governments respond to society's demands. I guess at least that's how I interpreted this whole theory. I think that was just the most simple way to put it. And in this theory, the political system responds to demands and support in the process of policy making and produces outputs such as decisions, laws, and policies, which over time create policy outcomes. I guess you can use, I think for an example, I would say banning smoking in restaurants. For instance, if there was a large amount of support from the public to create additional policies or regulations to ban smoking in restaurants, which this protects the non-smokers. In this exact example, an important policy outcome would be the change that comes from the new policy or the policy process model is a continuous process that depicts the policy making process and the relationships among policy actors within each stage of it. It is helpful for clarifying the role of policy analysis in the design and formulation of policy actions the government can take. There are 6 stages of this model, but first you have to define the problem first. And the first stage of the 6 stages is the agenda setting, which is how problems are perceived, defined, command attention, and get onto the political agenda. Second is the policy formulation, which is the design and drafting of policy goals and strategies for achieving them. Policy legitimation is the mobilization of political support and formal authorization of policies. Policy implementation is the provision of institutional resources for putting the programs into effect within a bureaucracy. Policy and program evaluation is the measurement and assessment of policy and program effects, including success or failures. And lastly, policy change is the modification of policy goals and the means used to achieve them. Now, I know the picture only shows a few of the parts of the model, a few of the stages of the model, but this was the most accurate I could find online, so that's the one, and it showed the actual continuous circle, so I'm just showing a line of each of the individual stages, so I thought that was the one that best depicted the model. The model can also be helpful to understand the flow of events and decisions in different cultures and institutional settings. In other words, the concepts and language are general enough to fit any political system and its policy processes. Policy analysis can potentially affect each of the 6 stages. That is, methods of policy analysis can provide knowledge and insights that might influence each stage of policy making, from how the agenda is set and policies are formulated to how existing programs are evaluated and changed. So this chapter introduced several theories, as you all can see, and it focused primarily on the policy process model, which is widely used in the study of public policy. The models and theories that I introduced here in my presentation are the tools for figuring out what policy actors are doing and why they are doing it. Well, that's all I have for you guys, so thank you.